all across the state, Utah County, that is where Ruby Franke and her family lived. One house and also a second house shortly thereafter. And Amanda Gilbert was in southern Utah. We're going to try to go back to Amanda real quick. Do we have Amanda? We do.
All right.
All right, Amanda,
all right,
take it away.
I think you can hear me. Yes, well, we have some technical difficulties, but actually something that happened today with that initial appearance for this case is they also had technical difficulties. The Washington County Courthouse told me they have never had this many people attending a virtual hearing before. They told me the numbers around 1,300 people attended the initial appearance. They had hundreds of other people waiting in a virtual lobby that never even got in. And basically, in the initial appearance today, the judge said that both Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrand would be held on no bail until the next hearing. Now, I actually was at the courthouse and I met some people who were just outside in person because they said they were just that interested in the case. I spoke with one college student who said she remembers watching Ruby Franke's YouTube channel way in the past, all day, every day. So this is just a case she's been following very closely. And actually, Shani, I am in Ivins right now. We've spent the whole day kind of out in the neighborhood of Jodi Hildebrand's house. We've talked to neighbors. They basically told me, as you might be able to see if I move around a little bit, this is just a very secluded, private neighborhood. The houses are very spread apart. So they're just very shocked and saddened that this happened here. And I'm outside Jodi Hildebrand's house. Again, a recap, this is where reports say one of Ruby Franke's sons escaped and then walked to a neighbor asking for help. So coming up tonight at 10, you're going to hear from neighbors. We'll go over that initial appearance again. Back to you, Brian.
Amanda, before you go, you were in the courtroom today, and I know that wasn't necessarily the plan. You were planning to do something else, and then we went over there because of the very challenging virtual WebEx situation which you described. Can you just quickly paint a picture of what that atmosphere was like? Obviously, both of the co-defendants now in this case, because they're now using one judge, they were not there. They were obviously appearing there virtually. So what was the atmosphere like? Were people trying to get in? What was the mood like there?
It was very quiet. I would say there was only about 5 to 10 people connected to the case that were actually there. So they usually got in and sat near the media. It was very somber. We did try to talk to both Hildebrand and Franke's attorneys after, but they kind of pushed us aside, went straight to a different room. Not a lot was said, but yes, very quiet, somber experience.
Amanda Gilbert live for us in southern Utah tonight. As I mentioned, this extends really statewide when you look at the two women that are involved in this. Continuing our team coverage, Brian Malahi back in that neighborhood in Utah County earlier today where the Franke family lives in Springville. Brian, I know you talked to current and former neighbors. What did they tell you about their neighbor?
Well, the impression that I have from the neighbors just in general is that most of them really do not want to be talking about this case. Some of us shut us down right away, said, look, I'm not going to discuss this. But I was able to talk to several neighbors who were able to share a little bit, saying they were appalled and also shocked by these allegations, said that the family seemed to be a good family, that the kids were well fed, that they were well dressed, and that the family generally appeared to be happy. Then at one point, the family moved from about 3 or 4 blocks away to a very upscale neighborhood. So life on the internet may have been going very well from a financial point of view. And then apparently there were some issues that were noted. Have not confirmed this, but we have done a story about some of the calls that were made in that neighborhood from neighbors to DCFS, the state agency that deals with child welfare. And the neighbors had noticed some things that bothered them, that troubled them, and that they wanted the state to get involved in that. Whether the state acted as aggressively and as immediately and urgently as it should have, we don't know that yet. Police were also called. But neighbors say, look, at one point the family seemed to get along great and the kids seemed well adjusted. And then suddenly the children were not seen outside the house that much anymore. And for much of the summer, the Franke family has not been at this very large home in Springville, not very many years old, wealthy neighborhood. And I think that has, that created some concern as well as other things. We're trying to nail down some of those other issues there. But neighbors not anxious to talk about this today in Utah County.
Brian Malahy live for us in Utah County. Yeah, neighbors aren't wanting to talk about it, and so are certain members of the family. They're trying to keep as far away from this as possible. And you mentioned, Brian, that they haven't been seen around Springville because what we've been hearing in certain reports is that they had been spending a lot of time in southern Utah at the other location where this all really began in terms of that 911 call. Sky Lazaro is here with us. We were talking earlier this week about this very case. So now we've had that initial hearing. Didn't last very long. I think you and I were talking about it. This is really interesting. People are very interested in this case. I mean, there was a public WebEx link. You should have been on there to listen to, people were, sabotaging the call and making weird sounds, and they had to shut it down just for us to get on and other people that wanted to get on to cover this. There is so much interest of this case pertaining to what is going on, I'd imagine because of the internet, because of social media?
I would assume so. I know we talked about this the other day and kind of speculated what would happen. There was 1,000+ people trying to get on there today. I would assume a lot of that has to do with, the fact that they had 2.5 million followers that were on the heels of some other cases that have come out of, this region of the United States. So it's, I think, sort of refocused.
So what do you make of them now using the same judge, right? Is that common? Is it something? It's something we've seen before in the Lori Vallow Daybell and then Chad Daybell. That eventually happened, right? Where they were eventually merging together to have a similar judge. But is that standard protocol? Is it standard practice when you have two people involved in the same case?
I would say yes. Reasons of judicial economy that the state may at some point move to consolidate both of these defendants into one single trial. So you want the same judge who's hearing different arguments and such to be up to speed on everything.
A couple things about Ruby and Jody. Ruby, we last checked, was in a medical holding area within the jail, and I found the motion that Jody's attorneys filed today with the court. They mentioned this, by the way, in that 6.5 minutes. I'm not sure if everybody caught it, that they were going to file something pertaining to the detention hearing, citing something going on with Jody. Now, in the document, it says that she has been hospitalized for some sort of medical concern since she has been incarcerated, at least in the jail. So both of them may be having some troubles dealing with this on the inside. Does that play how anything happens in court?
It will, because they're going to have to address those issues in order to get them to court. If they're on a medical hold or there's something going on that they can't physically or mentally be present for court, then those hearings could get pushed out because of that.
Sky, where are we in a timeline with all of this? Because this case obviously has gotten so much attention so quickly. We've had a couple pieces of information kind of come to us and other media outlets, right? Everyone's kind of digging in and taking a look at what we can find here, but where are we? It seems like this is extremely early still. We are
at the very utmost beginning of this case. So as far as timeline, we're probably a while before anything happens. I do think a detention, they'll probably argue detention sooner rather than later. Ruby Franke's lawyer filed a motion actually moving that September 21st date, or wanting to, but I expect they'll address detention relatively quickly. As far as everything else, I think we're a ways out.
I'm sure you and I will be talking about this again very soon. As always, thank you for coming in and kind of breaking down these things as they come about. As a matter of fact, we've had you in here twice this week, so we're keeping tabs. Thank you, Sky.
Always happy to see you. Thank you.
So, of course, we've covered each development of this story ever since we learned about these arrests earlier this week. It's been about 7 days now. So for all of our past reporting, including a number of articles just today from some new developments, head to our website, KUTV.com. We are staying on this as it pertains to get a lot of interest, both here in the state of Utah and really across the country and probably spreading across the world. Let's go back in time, shall we, with meteorologist Chase Thomason. I remember this day vividly.
Oh, a big throwback. I think a lot of folks remember this, especially if you live in Salt Lake, Davis, and Weber County. That is our historic windstorm. Remember, of course, we had the earthquake earlier in the year, and then we have this windstorm September. That's when we saw winds up to about 100 miles per hour, over 200,000 homes and businesses without power. My street didn't have power for over a week. It was something that I will always remember. Huge trees falling over.
We're no stranger to extreme weather events of sorts. Obviously, as you know from your experience going to Oklahoma and spending a lot of time in that part of the country, we're not getting a lot of tornadoes, but we're getting some unique things here.
What's different about this, a tornado will last maybe a few seconds, 30 seconds. This lasted 12 hours, 18 hours of just constant wind. And that's what brought down these huge trees that have been up for several years.
Let's take a look at your forecast.
Okay, we have a lot to go over, including lighter winds on this Friday. Right now, around 10 to 15 miles per hour, so no complaints here. It's been a little breezy at times, and once that sun sets here in about 2 hours, we'll have light winds overnight. Those temperatures will also be cooling off. It's been pretty warm. We did hit 90 degrees in Salt Lake. We'll be cooling off into the 60s along the Wasatch Front, 50s from Vernal down to Cedar City and St. George at 68 degrees. Tomorrow, a few more clouds might be bubbling up. It's still going to be a pretty warm day for your Saturday. We'll likely be in the upper 80s from Logan all the way down to Cedar City, 98 in St. George, and a big spag of 80s and 90s out in eastern Utah. There will be maybe a few stray thunderstorms in central Utah. More on that in just a moment. But the Greek Festival, right now, we're seeing those temperatures hover around 90 degrees, but just give it a few hours. We'll cool off into the 70s later this evening. Enjoy all the music, all the food. It is a lot of fun, by the way, if you haven't been. We'll be in the 80s Saturday and Sunday. There are so many events going on. We also have the Utah State Fair, Oktoberfest, Saturday and Sunday up at Snowbird. Those temperatures will be really nice in the upper 60s. There is a very weak disturbance, though, that's going to be sliding on in, bringing a little bit of moisture. And with the daytime heating, we might see some pop-up showers and thunderstorms. By tomorrow morning, though, we might see a few out in Nevada, then trying to push into Utah. So there's a slight chance maybe in Utah County by tomorrow evening there could be a shower or a thunderstorm. Probably not going to get a whole lot of rain, mainly just some gusty winds, but don't be surprised to see some dark clouds tomorrow evening south of Salt Lake and north of Cedar City. So central Utah, the best chance to see those storms through Saturday night. And then we'll have a little bit of moisture kind of hanging around across the state Sunday afternoon. So a mountain thunderstorm is possible, but they're going to be very isolated. Again, don't change any outdoor plans, but there might be a few storms if you are camping or hiking. Now, we do have an in-state game, Southern Utah, BYU, Saturday afternoon. Temperatures not bad in the 80s, but again, I've added a slight chance for maybe a shower storm towards the very end of the game, maybe while you're walking to your car. Now up in Cache Valley, though, far northern Utah, no storms are in the forecast for the Utah State-Idaho State game. 83 degrees, warm at kickoff, but then temperatures later in the evening really pleasant as we cool off into the 60s by 10 o'clock. Now, St. George, you're going to stay dry in the upper 90s through the weekend, but a little bit more moisture is going to be sneaking in next week. Isolated storms on Monday. Scattered thunderstorms are possible Tuesday and Wednesday. And with the cloud cover and hopefully a little bit of rainfall, temperatures are going to be cooling off a bit into the upper 80s and low 90s. Salt Lake, we'll call it partly cloudy through the weekend. 89 tomorrow, 85 on Sunday. Still nice overnight as we drop into the 60s. Monday is going to be a sunny day, and then some of that moisture from southern Utah moves into northern Utah. Isolated storms on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, our best chance for a little bit of rain in the afternoon and evening. Doesn't look like a big deal or a washout, but temperatures, really nice, near normal all the way through next week, staying in the low to mid 80s.
About time you mixed it up by throwing something else on the 7-day with the exception of sunshine.
We were thinking maybe just some mountain thunderstorms, but it looks like maybe a little bit more moisture moving in. Not everyone's going to get rain, so don't count on it, but we'll see those pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon that we kind of see during the summertime.
Temperatures look beautiful, though.
Love
You're
it.
right.
Yep.
Consistent. You can kind of make those plans and plan to roll with them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chase. Of course, thanks for watching 2 News Live. Sorry you had to be inside today on your Friday, by the way. The State Fair looked great yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, Greek Festival today, throughout the weekend, obviously, and then, you mentioned Oktoberfest.
Peach Days up in Brigham
City.
City.
City, Park City Market.
Yeah, open now. They've been kind of closed for August, and now they're open, I believe, every Sunday through September. So it's your last time to check out Park City.
Snow Basin's got their event on Sunday as well, live music and all that fun stuff. There's plenty to do this weekend. Get out and enjoy it. We're going to take the weekend off too, right? You're not working?
I'm Chase. You're Brian.
Yes. Thank you. See ya Monday, 5:30.